All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Here we're finally hanging out with all the crew. What's going down, Mr. Brown?
Today we got two AP2s here. Carrying his white one here. He's planning to do a front sway bar. He's going to upgrade with this iBox here we got from another friend. He's got the end links on there already. Meanwhile, Antonio behind us here, he's got his Silverstone AP2. We're just going to do the Ingalls torque dampener, or torque damper rather. So we'll probably start off with Tony's first because he's trying to get out of here and stuff like that. But meanwhile, we're also at the same time, we figured it'd be fun to try to teach our girls a little bit about working on cars and stuff like that. All right, so who's getting to work first? And I should get my tools out.
Well, we gotta go get some White Claws. We're gonna get White Claws to get prepared for this. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Well,
So the damper keeps it from shifting so much. Stabilize, which you can also do with engine mounts, right? But this is quicker and easier to install.
We got the Gearshyft girls.
all right, so what we got White Claw here doing is we got this engine torque damper. The idea is this thing is like a damper, like a shock, like you have anything else in your car. And we're gonna hook it up here so that when the engine revs and you're driving and stuff and this thing flexes normally, it's gonna dampen that flexing, right? It's gonna keep it from moving as much. That way you got less movement. So in theory, you should be able to shift a lot better because everything's staying in one place more, and you should have less wheel hop and things like that. So Ella's gonna help us with that. The first thing we're gonna get is a breaker bar, probably because we want to get down in here. We're gonna remove one of these bolts here. There's a 14mm bolt down here. So right down here, we're gonna be taking this bolt out because it's gonna help us mount this piece here into the car. And more like afterwards, I don't know if you're inflexible like I am. So the idea is you're gonna turn
Righty, lefty.
exactly. So you're gonna push it downward. Exactly. Right.
Appreciate your sacrifice.
So once you break that off, we can use this electric ratchet. That's not gonna come out easily with your fingers. So we can use the electric ratchet. It makes it a lot easier. You already have it unlocked.
Yeah.
So we'll put this on right here. So if you want, put this on and you can pull this trigger and it'll slowly loosen it out for you and I'll pull it out and then pull that bolt out.
Okay. Take it off?
Yeah. So we're just tightening it a little bit so there's a little bit more clearance because she can't get it quite all the way out because it's bumping up against this air box. So we got that.
You would have to unscrew the rest?
Yeah, you can do the rest by hand there. Cool.
Which is why he's so
All right, so we got our bolt out. There's a lot of things you can do in different orders, but one of the things we can definitely do is also we want to be removing these two bolts for the strut. So underneath here is our shock, right? Which of course attaches to our wheels and is our suspension. But the torque damper is going to be attached right here on the car, and that's how we're going to connect it to the chassis so that make sure it doesn't flex and stuff. So we can get a 14mm and remove this off. All right, so Ella had a question. What was it?
So, since you need a 14mm to open this, should I crack it with this one and then remove it with this?
Yes, in theory, yes. But the problem is, since this stud is coming straight through, if you try to get that 14mm, like go ahead and try to get it on there, you're gonna find you're blocked off, right? So you generally need something with a deeper socket, like one of these. So I'll get you a 14mm deep socket, or I also have what they call a pass-through, which basically means the back of it is open, so you can get it through. So we'll get you a 14mm. I've labeled mine in colors because my 14 is pink, just cause. So this one's obviously deeper now. If you try to get it on there, you can crack it off. So go counterclockwise, the opposite way of the clock. Okay, so one way you can do if you want, if it's super easy, you can use your hand. This is the pass-through wrench I was talking about. It has a hole in the back, so you can literally put it on there and still have it come through, right? And then you can still break this off, right? So in theory, you can break it off with the bigger one first because you need more torque, because obviously the longer bar gives us more torque, and so we can break it off. So in general, that worked out fine, but in general, what we want to do when we break it off, can I show you real quick, is you kind of want to keep your hand on here, because if your hand's here and you slip, what will happen is it'll just start shearing this metal off. Your hand will slip, you might fall, you might hurt yourself, but the big thing is if you strip this metal and this becomes no longer hexagonal, it becomes like a round piece, it might not ever come off, right?
Gotcha.
So we want to kind of keep one hand here and then push into it like that. You were fine because it wasn't rusted on or anything like that, and then this is so loose, I don't even need a ratchet. You can just literally get this off by finger, right? And just keep spinning it off. And so what we're gonna do is this is gonna be the in-between, and the idea is when this whole engine rocks because you're revving it, right? This will dampen that. So this is what that's in here, is to keep it dampened and keep it from squeezing. You can't do this with your hand because
So then,
it's strong enough.
when the car is actually moving, it's just gonna stabilize it?
Yeah, the idea is that this won't move so much, and so if the engine stays more stationary, so will the transmission, and so if the transmission is more stationary, so will the wheels be more, and so what will happen is the wheels will stay on the ground more, the transmission will be easier to shift because you're not trying to shift something that's at the same time moving underneath you, right? So that's the general idea of one of these. The only drawback generally is because you're connecting your motor even tighter now to your body, your chassis, is you're gonna get more vibration through the car. So a lot of people don't like it for that reason. They say it's like, you know, the car becomes a little bit less civilized, but for performance, people do use it.
So you can easily take it off if you don't
Exactly.
like it.
This is one of the easiest things to install ever. You don't have to get under the car. There's nothing really like, if you install it wrong, you're not gonna break anything because it's just one thing added. The only bad thing would be if you didn't tighten these back up, because these hook up your suspension, that's the safety piece. But these are, again, they're easy to get to. You can easily tighten them. It's not something you can easily strip or anything like that. So it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. So we took out that long bolt in the very beginning, that 14 millimeter. This is the bolt we're gonna replace it with. We needed something longer because in theory what we're gonna try to do is here, put this in here. And this is gonna be how we tighten everything up to the motor, right? We're gonna have basically a few bolts to do that. Actually, I wanna make sure before we do all that to get some of this wiring out of the way. So in theory what we wanna do is, there's this, I believe it's a 10 millimeter bolt. We're gonna pull this out and move this sensor here over here on the VTEC solenoid here. We're gonna move it over here. So we just need an easy 10 millimeter bolt and then do this one. There you go, yeah. Did you break it loose? There we go, looks like you kind of broke it loose there. Did it come loose? Yeah, you can feel that. So you can get that off with your fingers now. You don't even need an electric ratchet to make it faster. Uh-oh, she forgot her gloves, but at least we can see her good nails. The nails that you probably will chip today.
It's okay. I feel way more comfortable without gloves, and I can just wash my hands.
This is true. And so what we'll do is exactly put that there. We're gonna remove this one so we can move this whole sensor over. I did this install once without moving that sensor over, and it still works, but this wire ends up getting bent underneath some of this metal stuff. So it's just a little bit safer to move it over so you don't damage any of the wiring. Yeah, car should be
Literally that. Yeah. And we're trying to get to this go right here, so this hole right here.
I was gonna use them, but it's so hard to see when it goes dark and light into the engine bay.
This
So,
from
pliers.
and now what we did was remove these screws.
So we got this bolt. We forgot how to get this here, and just get this sensor kind of just tucked up to the side. All we really need is this space right here. So long as the sensor is just slightly tucked away, like another inch, we'll be good. Here you go.
What does the sensor do?
So this is the VTEC solenoid. So what does it really do inside? My understanding is that as you build pressure and oil pressure through the higher RPMs, right? This is what helps actuate you going into VTEC when you hit whatever RPM it may be, right? So 6200 or whatever your VTEC is, depending on if you're an AP1, AP2, or a Civic Si. So a lot of times when guys are having issues on track and the car's not going to VTEC anymore, they look at this piece and see if it's still functioning correctly. When I blew my engine at Streets of Willow, I was praying this was broken, because this piece is a lot cheaper than what I replaced, which was everything you see under this red top cover. Yeah, it was like, yeah, this would have been maybe a couple $100 versus, you know, a few $1,000. This is just a spacer. It's basically like kind of like a giant washer that you would stack 20 high or something like that. The idea is just to space this out so this can push away from the motor a little bit. So, you know, you're obviously not touching the motor and stuff, because that would cause like scraping and wear and stuff like that. So, since Kat's here, maybe we'll use her. We have this bolt, put this through. This part of the bolt doesn't have any thread because you're just basically gonna have the spacer in there. And this is gonna go right in where White Claw here took out her took out that first bolt we started right in the beginning. So as you can see, the bolt is a lot longer because we're making space for the spacer as well as this bracket here. So I'll let her figure it out to get it out in under there. It's a little bit hard because you do need to keep that big metal piece connected to it, and we're going to get in there and start threading it in by finger. This time we're tightening, so it's obviously clockwise, ready to tighten.
So, and this side's gonna go up? Yeah. Up. It's gonna go like this. Okay.
She got it on there. So you can wear these thicker gloves if they are hot and stuff like that. So the notion is, no offense to Kat or anything, but a big thing that is one of the worst things that can ever happen to you is if you put in a bolt and you think you put it in right, but you cross-threaded it, meaning like the threads aren't going in straight, right? They're not going straight into the female side and stuff like that. So this is obviously not cross-threaded, but if you get it cross-threaded and it's slightly off at an angle like this, you've done this probably with a bottle cap of your water bottle. Well, now that's plastic, not a big deal. When you do it in a motor, you've just kind of screwed yourself. You're gonna end up having to do a lot of extra work to kind of fix that issue, and either boring it out to make it a bigger hole and stuff like that. It's a huge headache. So the big thing I want to do is make sure that with this bolt she put in, it's going in and out easily, and it feels great. It feels fine. Like there's no real resistance. When you get a little bit of resistance, the issue is, ooh, it's barely in there. It actually fell out a little bit. So no resistance, which means she probably did it great. So as you kind of thread it in, once you thread it in like 2 or 3 revolutions, you know that you're probably fine. So the other piece now is, we can already tell, because Ella had the same issue, is that this bolt's sticking out so far, we're not going to be able to get a ratchet on there or a socket set on there. So we're going to probably thread in as much as we can by hand, which I'll let her do. And then as it gets closer, if we still can't find clearance, we're just going to use a traditional wrench.
I have a question.
Yeah. What's your question?
It doesn't look like it's lining up here. These holes. See?
Oh, interesting. So, the reason why it's not lining up yet, and it will, is we kind of forgot a step, and it's not like we have to undo anything, but we'll just take a quick pause, and what we'll want to do is remove these. That's why I brought my hex kit as well. So because I've done this install before, I ended up buying a hex kit that was a little bit better than the typical L-shaped ones you'll buy at Harbor Freight or something like that, because what happens with those is they're not quite long enough or have enough torque, so you end up either snapping something or breaking something. So we're definitely not going to go that big. We're going to see, and you just try them out. So 6 might be too big, so try 4 or 5. We'll try 6 first. Let's see. So test it out. Let's see. You know what? Before I drop this into the engine bay, I'm gonna go ahead and put an extension on this one and get added in here. A little reducer on there, connected to our ratchet, which we already had from earlier. And we'll test fit it and see if it fits. And just like everything else, yep. So it is a 6. So now we have this, and we can just go ahead and break this off. So this is a very these hex kits and these Allen keys, I feel like these are super easy to strip. So the big thing that what Kat wants to do when she tries to do this is make sure she pushes down into it so it stays nice and into that, right? Because if you slip out and let it come out a little bit, it will break one side or the other.
Go towards you?
So you want to do counterclockwise, so you can go,
yes,
exactly, towards me. Okay, so did you get it?
Yeah.
Perfect. So if you're in the situation of ever, which is almost all the time because it's a car and metal is, you know, strong and things get seized up and rust, if you're ever in her situation of like that was tough to get, you're worried about busting your knuckles, you can always use more torque. So you can use a breaker bar for this one. I wasn't sure how tight it would be on there, so she can use one of these for the next Allen key, for the next one. You got that one?
Yeah.
Cool. As you can see, it was a lot easier that time because she had a breaker bar. Okay, so she can get that out by finger or by hand.
By the way, I think this is totally awesome that we're teaching, you know, our Gearshyft girls how to just work on them and do installs and, you know, just have some more general knowledge about cars.
It makes my life easier.
All right, so she pulled out one of these the bolts. You can see the bolts we're gonna replace here with for Tony's car. They're slightly long, just barely. Either way, you need to take them out anyways. You might as well use the new stuff they give you with the damper. So we'll be using these once she lines back up that bracket, and we can kind of push those in there and bolt them up.
So Tony, how do you feel about having the Gearshyft girls work on your car? You're the first.
They're learning a little more than I am.
Oh, really?
I just kind of showed my anxiety texting my girlfriend, telling her that someone other than me is installing something on my car.
All right, so Ella and Kat are excited to start bolting something up. So I'm going to give you the new one so you guys can just, again, finger tighten. Everything kind of just keep finger tight for now, because if something doesn't work out or something doesn't line up perfect, if you tighten everything, there's obviously very little play. Like metal's not going to move very much.
I need to tighten these before I tighten the big one down here.
Yeah, exactly what you're doing looks great. Just put those in there and just kind of have it kind of loosely there.
What's the other one? Oh.
So we're looking for the other hex key, the new one. Okay, I believe the last one is in this bag. Here you go.
Every time I want to start the torque damper, I actually enjoyed that sandwich.
So we finally got them to line up, and now we're just tightening them up. Then we're gonna need.
This one's a little tight, so we're just making it fit. So you can see my hand does not fit. So we're gonna try to make it work from the bottom. And then just screw it from the bottom. We're just twisting it. It's tightening up. I'm sure Hank will have a handy dandy tool for us to make this a lot easier, because it's definitely not easy, but it's getting in there and it seems to be straight. So it's in there. It is now in there. And we have those tightened. As you can see, I stuck my finger down here and the other one up here so I could twist it, because it is a tight fit. So now I believe that's as tight as I'll get it with my fingers, and the other one's tightened as well. Just have this one over here that we will be tightening it up a lot more and getting in there. So now it's time to call Hank to tell us next step.
Hank!
Hi.
The hole here.
Because that's where they're, that's going to connect our damper and stuff like that. Let me get another
Thing that glove
here.
Yes.
And damper.
So, the next piece is, I guess we can start actually hooking up the damper.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So these two, this one was a little bit
tricky to get in, so I just tighten it. Is there like a magic tool that we can use to tighten it?
So as far as tightening that piece, in theory, if the extension can't reach, that's why you generally end up spending all your savings on tools. Where's our extension at? Let's see if we can get it in here.
Here? Not this one.
Yeah, we want the hex key too, though. This piece.
thing?
This piece. So the extension is called an extension because this is called a breaker bar, or some people call it a cheater bar, because it's designed for one, breaking bolts loose, or cheating because it cheats because it gives you a lot more strength, right? So if we can't get this down in here, which it looks like we can, we're fine, right? So that's why we have like these extra, and this is like the biggest kind of fallacy people have about working on cars. They think the hardest part is having the knowledge. A lot of it is just like, do we have the tools? Are you getting it done the right way? And if you're doing it the hard way, then it ends up being a lot more difficult and stuff like that. So we'll be fine. We'll be able to reach down there and be able to tighten those up. So like I said, though, usually I kind of wait just in case there's any hiccups, you have any issues, you suddenly got to go to the store and stuff like that. You don't want everything all done that you have to undo, right? So right now we're just kind of keeping everything finger tight. So at this point we can actually put the damper on and just kind of, again, get a general idea. Is it going to fit? Do we have to make any changes? Do we have to run the store for some piece or the other? What you want is the locking side here closest to the motor. That's how they kind of advertise it. Honestly, with the piece being what it is, doesn't really matter in my understanding, like which side. The shock's going to work upside down or left side right. So we have some washers and stuff like that. They typically do come with O-rings and stuff. I didn't bother with the O-rings. I ended up just using washers. That's going to give you guys more vibration and stuff like that. But now the idea is we want to keep these kind of washers, everything all together, but to kind of hook this up in here, like so. So I'm gonna let you kind of try that and figure it out. Just if you drop the washer, you drop the washer. That's kind of just life. And we go and fish it. The nice thing is Tony does not have the undertray good, so you can have this nut here.
Okay.
All right. And sometimes it's just hard because you're just gonna finagle. You're gonna have to move things to get both sides bolted up. So again, finger tight it. That way you have a lot of play to kind of move it around on the other side of that. Meanwhile, our mascot's here, little Blip Shift. We named her. This is she. This is Blip Shift. We call her Blip. Named Blip Shift for hopefully obvious reasons.
What's up, Blip Blip?
Yep, she's just coming back from a play date with our neighbor's dog.
So what do you think?
It's good. It's just so tight in here. I need like baby hands. I'm also just like worried about dropping this piece in here.
Which one?
This piece that I'm trying to screw on here.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have another one, so I don't want to drop it. I'm so nervous. Okay.
I think
You got it? So one thing is, if you kind of got some level of situational awareness, there's times where you know I cannot drop this thing because it will be a pain in the butt to catch. And there's other times where you're like, you know what, it'll just drop probably on the ground, I'll probably be okay. For me, if it's a metal piece, I'm not as concerned because I can use my magnet to grab it. If it's something plastic or something else, rubber, I really don't want to lose, it can be a pain in the butt to fish out. You end up spending half an hour to an hour getting out of the car, taking parts off just to get access to something. But this piece I'm not too worried about. If she drops, we'll probably be able to fish it out. Not a big deal, but either way, it's still annoying because then you're back on the ground trying to get it and then starting all over.
Have to try to do it, or do you have any tips for putting this easier?
Okay, so I mean, honestly, sometimes people get a little mixed up because they're like your own orientation is different, or it's backwards and you're putting it, you don't remember to spin it the other way. So for me, I'm tightening it on. I know I got to go counterclockwise because the bolt's not facing me, right? Or rather the nut. So I'm just gonna start turning it left, and then there we go.
I think
So-
I was doing it the complete wrong way.
Yeah, that's fine. That happens. So that's on there, it's threaded on there. So now this one, so here's one of the things, right, where like one reason why I'm not bolting things up, right? Because now I'm like, oh crap, this is on the wrong side. So we just take this off, right?
Okay.
Simple as that, because we didn't over commit and decide to do all that stuff. So before I even put that, let me actually undo this bolt. Thanks for holding that, or this nut rather. So we're gonna undo this nut. So depending on what Tony wants, if he wants aesthetic and stuff like that, you can easily turn this and have this bolt facing up so it's nice and gold. Meanwhile, I would probably end up having the nut facing up because that way when you put it on and take it off, it's not falling into your engine bay. So yeah, don't overthink it too much, but go ahead. We're gonna have Kat, wait, let me get this underneath. Go ahead, Kat's gonna drop that on there. And then we're gonna come up from underneath hopefully and be able to line this up. Hopefully I don't have to make too many adjustments. Sorry, I can't see, there we go. And then I'm gonna take this nut and then, don't drop it like I said. And we're gonna start tightening this thing down. There we go. So in theory, it looks like it's pretty much fitting perfect. I mean, sometimes you might need to make slight adjustments and stuff like that to make this longer or shorter, but this looks pretty much spot on. So we should be able to start tightening everything down at this point. So that Kat doesn't have to stand there holding that down, we can go ahead and start putting these on, these 14mm nuts that Ella had taken off earlier, and we can get those down. First start tightening it. I'm not gonna have Kat torque anything down again, but just so that everything we can fit everything a little bit more flush, you can use this pass-through wrench, so or rather ratchet. So you can use that. We already have it set for tightening up. There we go. She's just gonna snug it down a little bit just so everything fits a little bit more flush onto the car, and then we'll start torquing everything down. And in theory, Tony should be good to go.
because these parts were here, and to make space for this, we had to move them over here. So
Would it be better if that sensor clip was on top of the... Is there any way that we can get this to sit on there if I can move this up so that it's away from the actual...
From the header?
Yeah. So like you see this, see this is the solenoid, yeah, this is one of the solenoid clip wires.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
All right, so
that's why it's not tightened. So
yeah, I'll go get another zip tie. That way it
Okay.
can be completely out of the way. And it's like,
and then we could put the last bolt here.
what? It's not that.
This is our last bolt that goes here.
My girl lives in downtown.
This is our last bolt that we're just putting and screwing in. It's a little tight to get, but we can manage.
Oh, yeah, you need to send me that video. It disappeared?
There we go.
Yeah. I've done that so much.
So what happened to your nails?
It's fine.
Good?
We're good. You use gloves. But still, it's a lot easier when you don't use gloves. I feel like I can twist things a lot better and fit into places a lot better. At least these, the ones that Hank recommended.
Okay.
Torquing stuff down. In general, for me, when I torque stuff down, I'm trying to go, you know, and do opposite ends, so everything kind of has a chance to kind of tighten down together versus doing all one side and the other. Typical, same idea that you want to do for like wheels, right? So these are super light. They're 16 foot-pounds. They're so light to the point where most people just hand snug it and you're fine. 16 foot-pounds is very little, not even foot-pounds. Yeah, foot-pounds actually. Yeah, I'm actually doing it with this smaller torque wrench. So there we go. That click sounds we're done. We're gonna try to get the other one. I might as well since I'm here. Get this one. Here we go. And then what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna torque this down. This is at 36 foot-pounds. So 36 foot-pounds is a lot more, so I'm gonna use my bigger torque wrench. And we'll torque this one down. You hear that click, so we're set. Go. You got that click there. It's a very light click, so when you only have 36 foot-pounds, it's easy to achieve on such a big torque wrench. Meanwhile, we're gonna start torquing down the other brackets as well. You see, actually, I wonder if I'm gonna have regretted tightening these down too much because of the fact that this lower bracket hasn't been tightened down very much. I believe that's a 17 or 18 millimeter. So we're gonna figure that out. That would have also been smart to figure out before we put all this stuff on. When you've done it a while, you can start guessing, and I was right, it is a 17 millimeter. So we'll start tightening it using a ratcheting wrench because clearance is a little tight. All right, so we're torquing this down. So getting a torque wrench down in here is really difficult just because of the nature of what a torque wrench and how it's shaped. So for me, honestly, we're gonna snug this up nice and tight. I'm not too worried about the loads it's gonna take and stuff because it is well distributed. The idea is you could have tightened this on beforehand before putting it all together, which could have been smart. What I wanted to do was err on the side of actually having it all kind of sit nicely and not have to force anything into anything. So we did it this way. So what you can easily do is just kind of get, not so easily, but if I can get somebody to help me, maybe I can get Erica or somebody to
Erica, you're up.
What you got? You don't have to put on gloves. So on the other side of this bolt, I believe it's a 17, just like this. So I just want to have you have this wrench holding here so I can torque it down on the other side. Does that make sense? All right, there we go. So hold it there for me. Or rather, I'll hold it once you tighten this thing until it clicks. There we go. It's gonna click soon, I think. There you go. See that click? You went past it a little bit, so we're good. All right. So same thing we'll do here. This one will be a lot easier because I'll be able to get this here. So the biggest piece is like if we, yeah, we're gonna just snug it up because 35 foot-pounds is not much, so I'll be able to do that. I'm not worried about that. In theory, what we put it down again is torque all this up before we put it onto the car and then put it down on the car, which might have been good, but I kind of like the way we did it. So what I'm going to do is just take our 17 millimeter ratchet as well as our 15 millimeter ratchet, or not ratchet, excuse me, wrenches, and we'll tighten it up. We're going to tighten it up. You can just put one on each side if you want. This is not the right way. This is on this side.
Oh, we'll do both at the same time?
Yeah, you might as well work from both sides. So
Like that?
yeah, and you can actually turn both. You can go like this. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so the idea is about 35 foot-pounds. You probably don't know what that feels like yet until you've done it for a while, but there we go. All right, so stop for a second. Yeah, so we'll leave that on there. We'll just do one last snug just to check, see how tight she got it. She's pretty strong, so yeah, I'm definitely not worried about that. That's good. Because any farther, obviously, we can easily accidentally strip it, and then we're totally annoyed and have to go get a new bolt or a new nut. So I'm pretty happy with this install at this point. I think everything looks good. We torque that down, torque these down. This is probably the most important thing to torque down. This is the only thing your life depends on, is your suspension and stuff like that. So yeah, now we can get Tony to probably just turn the car on. Big thing I like to do is make sure that I don't have any extra parts missing. So these two Allen key bolts we know we took off, and this one we took out in the very beginning. The first bolt we took off with Ella. So he can keep these as spare parts, and we can crank her up.
Good. Looks good.
So we have a question.
You can see it.
It moves.
That's a
Little
throttle.
spring.
So this is our what we call throttle cable, right? This is the actual cable. So when Tony flips that throttle, it's literally pulling this, and which will open up a valve in here. It's called a butterfly valve, and it'll open up and basically allow air in through here. So the air is coming through here, right? This is where the air intake is. So it'll open up so that you can get air in. When you don't have throttle down, where you're not flipping on the throttle, it's generally almost completely closed. It's not completely closed. You need some air getting in so you can idle at whatever 800 RPM. But obviously, the more you open it, the more air you get. Newer cars will have these as electric. You won't have a cable anymore. It'll actually be you pressing more like a button, and it opens up electronically. This is still actuated mechanically, right? Because it's literally. So if you have issues with throttle, like your throttle's being sloppy in some way, some people can actually, you almost never do this, but adjust this throttle cable for more tension. Yeah,
Hey,
so
Tony,
Yes, sir.
what year is your S2000?
2004.
2004. And when did they change over from using the drive-by cable to drive-by wire?
2006.
06?
Yep.
Right on.
So a lot of guys love the 04s and 5s because it's that middle ground, that perfect ground of having an AP2, which a lot of people love for the extra torque and for the suspension improvements, but still having this old school cable driven throttle. It does make it harder to tune these cars though. It's easiest to tune an 06 and up because the way on data and all that stuff works. So sometimes what you can do is because you take off so many bolts, going back through your own DIYs and stuff like that and making sure, hey, did I actually bolt up and snug up all those bolts? I've taken on and off this VTEC solenoid so many times off of my other cars that, you know, for me, I can just snug it up. It's not a big deal. Stuff. It's nothing that's like big load bearing and stuff like that. It's just attaching it to it, so you're fine. And you can always tell when they're backing out and stuff like that because they're easy to see. So yeah, looks like Tony's ready to go.
No, have fun with it.
All right, I just want to see.
I trust you. You have a AAA. Just take that.
Yeah? Yeah.
Because you drove it before, obviously,
Yeah,
so you know.
I want one.
You want one?
I'll take one. I'll for sure take one.
Not bad.
Got it?
I don't know. This one.
Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in this week's video. And a huge shout out to all the Gearshyft girls that were here featured on our episode today. You will be seeing more of them here very soon. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and let us know what you guys think. Until next time, we're out.